to arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami, dhammang saranang gacchami, sanghang saranang gacchami, dutiyampi puttang saranang gacchami, dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami, dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami, tatiyampi puttang saranang gacchami, tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami, tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. So that is the procedures for taking the refuge in the triple gem, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Now we will move on to taking the precept. So for the retreat, we will take the A precept. The first precept is trying to abstain from taking life. The second precept is trying to abstain from taking what not given. The third precept is trying to abstain from sexual practices. The fourth precept is trying to abstain from false speeches. The fifth precept is trying to abstain from taking intoxicants that can cause carelessness and forgetfulness. The sixth precept is trying to abstain from eating at the wrong times, mainly from the afternoon until dawn the next day. The seventh precept is trying to abstain from dancing, singing, listening to music, watching show, wearing garlands, perfumes, ointment, etc. And the eighth precept is trying to abstain from lying or staying on high or luxurious beds. So that is the procedures for taking the precept. So before the Dharma talk, Sarachi's recite Imaya, and I will do the same. Imaya Dhamma Nu Dhamma Pati Patiya Buddhang Buje Mi. Imaya Dhamma Nu Dhamma Pati Patiya Dhammang Buje Mi. Imaya Dhamma Nu Dhamma Pati Patiya Sanghang Buje Mi. With the practice that conform to the Dhamma, I pay respect to the Buddha. With the practice that conform to the Dhamma, I pay respect to the Dhamma. And with the practice that conforms to the Dhamma, I pay respect to the Sangha. So that is the procedures for taking refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, as well as taking the precept. So today, the Dhamma talk, Sarachi mentions about the flags. Today is December 24th, and here's at Mahasatipatthana Meditation Center, we have the installations or the hoisting of the flags. First is the American flags, and after that is the Buddhist flags. So for the Buddhist flags, I just give a little bit of history. So when the Bodhisattva became the Buddha, and on the fourth week, he practiced meditations and he contemplates on the 24 conditions. And these 24 conditions, they contain everything in the universe. And in Pali, it's Patthana. So when the Buddha contemplated on these 24 conditions, his body emits out lights. And all these very beautiful lights, they have, they were said to be 5 different colors. So on the flags, on the Buddhist flag, there are 5 different colors. And these colors represent each paramis. Is I'm sorry, I don't know how to translate paramis in English, like conditions, like paramis. So each color would represent the paramis of the Buddha when he was a Bodhisattva and when he was practicing to fulfill his parami in order to become the Buddha. So there are 10 different paramis. And when the person practice these 10 different paramis are fulfilled, the 10 different paramis in different level, then it's from the lower to the middle and then to the highest. So when a person fulfill the highest of the 10 paramis, of the highest to the highest level, the person becomes the Samma Sambuddha, the fully enlightened Buddha. So the Buddha is the one that fulfill all his paramis to the highest level. So there's 10 paramis, the lower level, middle level, and the highest level. So if you times 3 times 10 would be 30 paramis. And so this right, when a person fulfill all these paramis and becomes enlightened, that person is very worthy to pay respect. And every day when we recite Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa, that's when we are paying respect to the Buddhas, and we are remembering why we have to pay respect to the Buddhas and the virtues of the Buddha. And Sayagyi mentioned that so today there are two samaneras that just ordained. He is at Mahasatipatthana Meditation Center. And he said that for the samanera, even if they could not remember much, it's very important that they at least remember how to say Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa, because that is to pay respect to the Buddhas and to remind us why it's very important and why the Buddha should be venerated as well as be respected. And after that, then we remember how to say or to take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, as well as the Sangha. And because just by taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, even if you cannot or you don't know how to keep the sila yet, just having faith and having this unshakable faith in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, you would not be reborn in the four woeful plans. So it's very important. So today is December 24th, 2020. So December is 12, 24th is 24. So 12 can be represent the numbers of the 12 conditions, or in Bali is Patima Samubpada, Paticca Samubpada, and then 24th is Vatthana, the 24 conditions. And today's from now on, Mahasatipatthana Meditation Center, we use this date to become like an anniversary, so that we will remind ourselves today's we raise the spirits of Buddhism, and we raise the spirits of practicing mindfulness. And about the flag, only a free country that be able to have a flag and you can be able to celebrate and hoist your flags and let your flags fly as high as you can. Just like that, now at here Mahasatipatthana Meditation Center, we have the flags, we raise the flags of the Buddhist flags, and this is the spirits of Buddhism. And the spirits of Buddhism is the religions of wisdom, the religions of liberation, and not just mundane liberation. We talk about the ultimate liberation. And Sayagyi mentioned that back in the day, the Buddha, he became the Buddhas, or he enlightened in the East, in India. And we as his disciple, his follower, we brought Buddhism into the West. So here in this center, we are located in Florida, in USA. So it's considered the West. So now as the followers, we brought the teachings of the Buddha from the East to the West. And hopefully here, we will be able to follow the teachings as well as spread the teachings of the Buddha as long and as much as we can. And moving on, when the Bodhisattva first became the Buddha, and then he spread his teachings, and the first sutta that he taught was the Dhammacakka Bhavattana, or the turning of the wheel. This is the turning of the Dharma wheel, not the wheel of the samsara. So when you follow and you apply the Buddha teaching, you follow this wheel, that you'll be able to exit out of samsara. And that's very first teaching, the first sermon there in the human realm. There were 5 disciples, the first 5 disciples, that listening to this sutta, the Dhammacakka Bhavattana Sutta, and became enlightened or realized the Four Noble Truths. So the first person was Kodanya, and then after that was the follow 4 disciples. But according to the commentary, some commentators translate that in the heaven realm there was actually 80 millions or 80 billion devas that actually listening to this Dhammacakka Bhavattana Sutta and realized the Four Noble Truths and became enlightened. So it depends on the translation. Some say that is 80 millions, and some say that it's 80 billions. So what is it that we call the Dharma, or the teachings of the Buddha? So over his 45 years, he's only talked about karma, or how to follow karma. So what does it mean to follow the karmas or pay attention to the karma? What is it, the karma that the Buddha mentioned? So this karma that he talks about is the bodily action, verbally actions, as well as the mental actions. So when you do something, you create this karma, bodily, verbally, as well as mentally. So here during the retreat, we try to train our mind so that we reduce, or we can change from unwholesome karma to wholesome karma, from the unwholesome acts of our body, verbal as well as mental, to wholesome acts of our body, mental, as well as verbal. So first of all, we start with the sila. Sila is considered the foundation. We always, at the beginning of the Dharma talk, we always observe the sila, or morality, because sila is also considered karma. Why is it like that? When a person observes sila, first of all, we trying to abstain from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, or sexual activities, as well as some others, lying, etc. So we are trying to restrain from committing unwholesome karma from our bodily as well as our verbally. And then after that, when we try to train our mind with vipassana meditation, insight meditation, then we are restrains our mental activities or mental karma. So here, when a person practicing vipassana meditations, we are observing the risings, falling of the abdomen according to the method of Mahasi Sayadaw, and Kipa Banyo Sayadaw is also teaching us this method. So he say that nowadays, many of us, when we live in this mundane world, we live with this breathing. We breathe every day and we breathe 24 hours a day, but we are not aware of our breathing. We are not aware of our breath. So when we come to this retreat, we're trying to pay attention to our breathing from our nose, as well as from the rising, falling of the abdomen. And here, Sayadaw mentioned that when we raise the flags, it's very beautiful when the flags flying in the wind. But if you understand the Dharma, when we see this flag, we say, oh, these flags are moving. But when we actually see it under the lights of the Dharma, we will see that these flags, these are rupa, material quality, they do not move. It's only the manifestations of the wind through the flag that we can see the moving of the flag. So basically, the movement is the manifestation of the wind element, not the flag itself. Just like that, when a person observing risings, falling of the abdomen, and with the risings, falling in the abdomen, we observe with our eye closed, not open. We can see that there's rising. When we're breathing in, the abdomen rises, and when we breathe out, the abdomen falls. So that way, we don't pay attention to the abdomen itself, because again, abdomen is just rupa, the material quality. The abdomen does not move. The abdomen just that. But because of the wind, so therefore we see the movings and falling. That is the manifestations of the wind element in this body. So when a yogi trying to pay attention to this movement, the yogi would penetrate through, or forget about this concept of the abdomen, of this rupa material or the flesh, but paying attention to the movement, because this movement is the manifestations of the wind element. And when we talk about this body is only made out of 4 major elements. Is fire, earth, wind, and water. So when the person observing or contemplating the bodies in the body, we are actually trying to pay attention to the manifestations of the 3 major elements. First is the wind, second is the earth, and third is the fire. So what are the manifestation of these 3 elements? So for the wind element, then we will see there's this movement, and when we're trying to pay attention to the risings, falling of the abdomen, we're trying to pay attention to the movement, the vibration, the extensions or expansions of the abdomen. And then when after sitting for a while, sometimes we can feel, oh, there's heat or coldness. Then but Sayadaw say that there's always these temperatures in our body, but then this temperature, because it doesn't really fluctuate, and because you do not pay attention, so therefore you are not aware of it. But when you meditate, sometimes you feel like, oh, there's this heat that's coming out from my body, or this coldness arising in this body. So this heat and cold, these are the manifestations of the fire element. And then in terms of the earth element, so when the yogi sit during sitting meditation, while observing the risings falling, sometimes the yogi can see that, oh, there's a touching of the body touchings, or the two hands touching each other, or the buttock touching the ground. So when this touching like that, sometimes you can feel softness, or sometimes you feel hardness. So when we pay attention to this hardness or softness, that is the manifestations of the earth element. So when the yogi paying attention of the contemplating the bodies in the body, we are contemplating on these manifestations of the three elements through the body, and that is seeing things as they really are in terms of the ultimate truth. We are not paying attention to the concept of the flesh, of the bones, of the stomach or the abdomen, but actually of the manifestations of the elements through our contemplation. And how do we know that? It's only because we have sati, mindfulness. And when there is mindfulness is the mental factors, and it's arise together with the mind. So when there is mindfulness, mindfulness would remind the mind to stay in the body, or to stay in the mind, knowing what is activities going on in the body, what is activities going on in the mind. So Sarichi gave a very vivid example, just like in the mundane world, you do babysitting. So when you babysit, you would not let the baby crawl out of the bed. So because when the baby crawl out of the bed, it will fall over and then hurt itself. So just like that, when there is mindfulness, the job of the yogi to bring the mind back into the body, knowing what is going on in the body as well what's going on in the mind at the present moment. Because when the mind thinking or wondering, the mind is conditions of the past or the future. The mind does not stay in the body. The mind does not stay at the present moment. So just like that, we're trying to bring the mind back into the body, in the frame, just like make sure that the baby does not fall out of the bed. We're trying to bring the mind back into our body, or in the mind, and then we bring it in the present moment, not let it go outside of the mind, outside the body, or go into the past or go into the future. And just like that, we will be able to pay attention and be mindful of what is going on in the body as well as going on in the mind at the present moment. And when there is sati, concentration would arise. What does it mean is having concentration? Concentration is mean there's no thinking. If there's thinking, the mind is not concentrated. Because when thinkings arise, the mind always either conditioned by the past or the future. It does not stay in the body. It does not stay at the present moment. So nowadays, many people develop depressions or mental illness. Why is that? Because the mind keep on wandering back into the past, or wandering back, going to the future. When you think about the future, there's all these worryings and all imagination that is not real happening in the mind. Same thing when you go in the past, and all this remorse, all these lamentations and sorrow arise in the mind. And because the person does not know that this is just the activities of the mind, does not know how to bring the mind back into the body, back into the present moment. And just because of that, the mind is full of defilement, the mind is very weak and full of ignorant. And because of all this ignorance and delusions in the mind think that, oh, all this thinking, all these feelings is I, is self, is ego. So therefore, there's this attachment and all these personifications, personalized, or thinking, this is I who depressed, this is I who is sad, this is I who feels certain way. It doesn't know this is just only the activity of the mind. So therefore, they're having the wrong view. And because of that, there's all these lamentations that arising in the person. So again, when the person know that, or be able to contemplate thinking just as thinking, then person see that, oh, this is only the mind, as the activities of the mind. There is no I, there is no self, so on and so forth. So whatever that is arising in the mind, the yogi would be able to contemplate. So for example, when the yogi practicing vipassana, contemplating risings and falling of the abdomen, and there's thinkings arise in the mind, and the yogi would be able to contemplate thinking right away, and yogi would be see that thinking would stop. The mind would be, yogi would be able to bring the mind back into the body, back to the risings, falling, back to the present moment, and there would not be any sorrow, any lamentations, or any imagination that arise in the mind that make the mind become very, very heavy, or delusions. And Saji has mentioned that for some beginner yogi, it's very hard to bring the mind back into the body, or bring the mind back into the present moment. It's okay if you forget to do that. Don't worry about it. Just let it go. And whatever the moment that you remember, that is the present moment, then you bring it back to the body right away. So let's say there is 60 there are 60 seconds in 1 minute. If you can, then try to, if your mind is wander a lot, then you're trying to pay attention, or you're trying to develop mindfulness for 10 seconds, trying to keep the mind in the body for 10 seconds. And then if you can do it for 10 seconds, then continue to do it for 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and slowly increasing the time when you're trying to keep the mind in the body, watching what is going on in the body, in the mind at the present moment. And just like that, and when we are paying attention to the risings and falling of abdomen, we're trying to make sure that we are completely follow the entire process from the beginning to the middle to the end. Just like when we are counting, we count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Just like that, there is arising, existing, as well as ceasing. So when a person see that every single risings or every single falling, this is always go through these stages of the arisings of the falling, the arising of the risings up, beginning of the rising of the abdomen, and the existing of that, and then after that is cease. And same thing just with the falling, it's begin to fall, it start to fall, and then it ceases. So just like that, the person who see that everything in all the phenomena that is conditions always have these three phases: arise, exist, and cease. And that is the common characteristic that a person should realize when practicing vipassana meditation, because that is the true natures of all the phenomena in this world. When the person see that from your breathing, from your risings and falling in abdomen, when you really be able to contemplate and experience that and understand that, you will see that everything else is just the same. Just like there is seasons in 1 year, and when this season begin, this season existed, and this season ceased, and another season will come, just like that. And when you realize that, then you realize there's nothing for you to be craving for. There's nothing for you to be attached to, because everything arise, this manifest or is exists for a certain period of time, no matter how quick or slow, and then it will cease it. And because of that, we'll be able to let go. And because of that, we will not be so attached to everything, to this body as of ours, to whatever that happening to the body, whatever happening to the mind, as well, whatever that's going on to the outside world. And Sayagyi say that if a person be able to train the mind to see it that way, the mind will become very light. And when this mind become very light, it's very easy for the mind to transcend and to be able to penetrate and keep on seeing, to see things as they really are. And again, when we are practicing vipassana meditations, we are contemplating on whatever is going on in the body, whatever going on in the mind. And whatever going on in the body, whatever is going on in the mind is also considered as the Dharma. And this Dharma, then when we understand this Dharma, we will understand that this Dharma is impermanent. And this Dharma, everything is just arise, exists for a period of time, and then it ceases. And when a person see that, then person see the ultimate truth, because what else is there? There's nothing else is there. Everything will just arise, exist, and cease. And these are the phases that the person should be able to contemplate. And when a person also see that, only the mind will be able to see that. The body itself, this body will be born into this life. This body would have agings and decay, but this body is only the material aruba, material quality. It doesn't know anything. It's just not aware of anything. It's only the mind will be able to know that and see that. Just like that, when we observing the risings, falling of the abdomen, the abdomen is the ruba, is the material quality. It does not know anything. And then the manifestations is the movement. It does not know anything. Only the mind know that. And this knowing mind, seeing from the beginning of the rising to the end of the beginning to the middle, as well to the ends of rising. Same thing with beginning to the falling, and middle as well, the end of the falling. Then the mind will see that we are actually exist. We be born, exist, and die in every single moment. And that knowing mind is wisdom. That knowing mind is insights from vipassana meditation. And Buddhism is the religions of wisdom. We are trying to cultivate wisdom so that we will see things as they really are. And all things is, if we see things at how they arise, they exist, and they see, that is the nature or the characteristics of all Dharma as well. So just by observing the entire process of breathing or entire process of risings and falling, you will be able to understand the entire phenomena or all the Dharma in this world. And remember, when you direct the mind back to the body as well as in the present moment, that is, you actually live with your body, you live with your mind, you live with every breathing. If you forget, it's considered like dying, because when a person does not know what is going on in the body, or does not know what's going in the mind, or the person does not stay in the present moment, the person does not live. The person is actually just letting things pass by. The person is conditioned by past or future, but the person does not live in the present moment. So remember, living is remembers is living, and forgetfulness is dying. So everything that he said just only in theory. What is important that we have to apply the theory into practice. So Sayagyi encouraged all yogi to practice 5-minute sitting meditations with him. And again, he said that during the retreat, we sit for 1 hour and we walk for 1 hour. During 1 hour of sitting, we just trying to observing the movements of the abdomen. Again, remember, the abdomen or the stomach, this is only the concept. This is only the flesh, and this is the material quality. It does not move. Whatever that's moving, when we see all this movement, when we see all these vibrations or expansion, these are the manifestations of the wind element. And what we want to see is, we want to see this manifestation. We want to contemplate, observe this manifestation in order to understand how this ultimate reality works. And when the person be able to understand, wisdom will arise. And with that wisdom, this is the right view. And when the person have this right view, the person will not be attached or be having any craving to these bodies, as well as what is going on in the bodies or what's going on in the mind. And during the practice of the 5 minutes, Sayagyi say that for the beginner yogi, if it's hard for a person to observe risings, falling of the abdomen, it's okay for the person to practice Buddha Anusati, or the contemplations on the virtue of the Buddha. And again, it's because of the Buddha has great virtues, and he's like a great benefactors as well as a protector. So it's always good and it's always beneficial to contemplate on the virtues of the Buddha if the person cannot see or cannot contemplate on the risings and falling of abdomen. So after contemplating on the virtues of the Buddha, then we can move on to contemplating on virtues of the Dhamma as well as the virtue of the Sangha. And after contemplating on this virtue, the mind would be quiet down and it's be calmer. And then after the mind become a little bit calmer, and the yogi will be able to direct the mind to the abdomen and trying to see the risings, falling of the abdomen, and trying to observe the risings, falling of the abdomen. And again, Sayagyi's mentioned that this Dharma that we talked about, or the Dharma that we are trying to understand and practice, is nothing but the bodies and the mind. This bodies and mind is considered like our university. So in the mundane world, a person can go and have a law degree or a doctor degree, and you have to study all your life. But then that is only for thinking, for quantum, for reflecting, for the knowledge of the mundane world. But in this body, we live with this bodies and mind for the entire life, from the moment that we was born until the moment that we die. But we do not know anything about it. Then is not how we should live. So this bodies and mind is our university, and we're trying to learn, we're trying to observe it, we're trying to contemplate, so that we will learn and we would know everything that we should know about this body and what we should know about this mind. And that's all. Oh, okay, one more thing. So Sayagyi mentioned that when a person at the dying moment, when the person know how to contemplate, or then when the person know how to observe the risings, falling of the abdomen, of observing the wind element, at the dying moment, when we pay attention to the breathing, and when we know if the breathing is slow or fast, and we would be able to transcend our mind, because at that the mind, that knowing is not delusion, and the mind is the knowing mind is considered wisdom, the minds that have wisdom. And with that mind, and when we pass away, we'll be reborn in the heaven realm. Because when the person pay attention to the breathing at the dying moment, either the breathing in or breathing out, slow or fast, the minds always know, okay, this is fast, this is slow. And this knowing mind is not diluted, is not polluted. And this knowing mind is considered as wisdom. And when wisdom arises in the mind is very light, and it's easy for the person would be reborn in the heaven realm. And just like that, when we do not know, or we do not know how to train our mind to pay attention to breathing, at the dying moment, it's hard for us to observe the breathing or the risings and the falling. So therefore, the mind can become very weak. And because of that weak mind, it's easy for us to be reborn in the lower realms. And we do not want to be reborn in the lower realm. So therefore, we should start practicing vipassana meditations or training the mind from this very, very moment. And that's all I have for today's translation. Thank you so much for listening. I wish everybody have a very wonderful Christmas Eve. Thank you, and sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Goodbye.
Yeah.